We're gonna watch the video how MkLeo finally defeats his demons. Now, the only demon that I know that he has beaten is Shuton, because Shuton used to farm that guy. I think at one point Shuton was like 12 in games, was like 12-0 or 15-0 versus Leo. My guy got farmed. The only other person that I can think of that has farmed Leo so hard, or almost as hard, is Onan. I think Leo generally struggles against those two players the most consistently. He's not very good against Steve, I'm gonna be completely honest. But I'm curious to see what the video has to say. It's good old RisterMice react content. Ooh, that's what we like to see. So let's see what RisterMice has to say. I usually go back and forth with him pretty well. And this is the channel that you go to, Mars's channel, my channel, for any MkLeo conversations.
Every competitor in Smash Ultimate.
True, he actually struggled against Esam for a bit too.
It has one player that they just don't want to see in their bracket pack.
The bracket demon. Mine is Tweak. Thank you for asking.
Or they're just really good against you or your character.
That's really funny that he called it a player matchup, because, and then he showed the buzz, because that's cruel to do, because Leo has owned Dabuz since the beginning of Ultimate. In fact, there was one tournament that Dabuz did really, really good at, and then he had to fight Leo. This was around the time that Leo was like only playing like Byleth, and I think that was it. And then he just went Joker versus him. It just killed him. He just destroyed him.
Everyone's got that one player that makes them feel dread like no other.
Okay, they're showing Leo versus Zamba, but they're forgetting the part where Zamba kind of farmed Leo for like 2 or 3 sets in a row.
But, and hear me out here, what if he didn't?
Bum, bum, bum.
MkLeo is one of Smash Ultimate's most celebrated competitors, but even he has demons. Demons who have caused him pain in his brackets for
these two
as long
gamers.
as Today we'll be going over who these opponents are and MkLeo's history with them before finally going into their most recent encounters, in which Leo was bringing something new to the table, something that had maybe let him overcome these demons.
Scumbag counter picks. That's what it is.
Our story begins in spring of 2019 at 2GG Prime Saga Kickoff.
I don't think he had a demon in early Ultimate. I don't think there was anyone who truly farmed him. I'd say maybe his first demon was like Sora for a little bit, because there was a time where like Sora beat him like 2 or 3 times in a row, but I don't know.
MkLeo, as the most dominant player of the era, was entering into the tournament as the first seed, defeating Falco main Isman and Gluttony in top 24 in order to make winners finals.
Not the Marth, not Leo 3-stocking Gluto with Marth. How does that happen? Oh my god.
But meeting Leo here was not the second seed Zachary. Instead, it was the third seed who had just upset Zachary the round prior in winner semis. The first of MkLeo's 2 biggest demons. A bastion of representation for solo Olimar, and one of the best players in Japan, if not the best at the time, Shuton. And this was the first time that these 2 players would ever fight. Most of his tournament run thus far had been with Wolf, but this set opened up with Marth, as
Marth is so bad. I didn't know he played mostly Marth this tournament.
And the set started off relatively even, a good tipper F smash at ledge evening up a bad percent deficit cleanly. But pre-patch Olimar was a much different beast than what we're used to today, as Shuton put 95% onto MkLeo in the blink of an eye, finding the stock with a blue Pikmin up throw mere moments later. This time,
I hate when these videos just like play-by-play a game that happened all the way in 2018, bro. Just give me the lore. I don't need the breakdown.
Game 2 started off a whole lot better for Leo, getting up into an early lead, but a whiffed up B allowed Shuton to get an opening to take the stock before Leo could.
Humble mid-tier Wolf? No, this was pre-patch Wolf, where down smash actually killed at 30 in the corner. Uncharged.
And if a 3-1 stock lead wasn't bad enough, yeah, Shuton really had that game in the bag. After that savage showing, MkLeo would swap off of Marth and onto Wolf,
and everyone knows that Wolf actually kind of destroys.
But in this critical game 3, Shuton was able to get Leo on the ledge, catching his recovery with an electric Pikmin down air, and then sniping him off stage with a purple Pikmin toss. And if just one offstage snipe was good enough
destroying
for you, how about one more? Now, MkLeo was not going to give up, and would impressively bring the game back to an even stock scenario, utilizing Wolf's pre-patch down smash to great effect. But
I would have killed
the game
today
would
too.
end through, I'll give you 3 guesses and the first 2 don't count. Yeah, that's right, another purple snipe. And that's how the first ever set between these 2 eventual legends of the game went down. Now, I'm not going to analyze every single set between Leo and his 2 demons, but I will be analyzing the first and most recent sets.
Shuton had the matchup experience unlike Leo. I don't know. I mean, he's good against Olimar. I think Shuton just plays so weird that you have to like really get used to it.
Grand Finals was much better for Leo in terms of keeping it even with Shuton.
Oh, he played him in Grands.
But he still wouldn't manage to take a game. He'd go Wolf in game.
I remember. No, this is Congo. Sorry, never mind.
Games 1 and 3, but Game 2 saw MkLeo go a character that modern fans will be very surprised to see all the way back in 2019. Corrin.
What the heck? Yeah, people were just like, Olimar loses his swords, so everyone spams swords. And Corrin is the OG sword, and very simple to play. That's why there were so many like Lucina and Corrin counterpicks, you know, from top players, just because like, you can just get away with it.
Sadly, to no avail. Leo would lose once again 3-0, taking a second place finish at this pre-local. But time kept marching on, and MkLeo would not play another set against either of his demons until summer of 2022.
Sheesh.
Real quick though, keep in mind everything that's gone down between those two sets. Leo went from one of the top contenders in the game to the top contender. And in all that time, despite being at the same tournament several times, Leo never got his run back versus Shuton.
Why they make that picture? Why are they representing my boy Shuton like that?
Rather, this was the first time that MkLeo would come into contact with his second bracket demon, Anin.
Dude, I remember. This was like the tournament that like Onin popped off at, and I remember a lot of like the Midwest people were kind of like hyping up Onin. We're like, oh, this kid's nasty, like, and this was literally like 10 a.m. Sunday. Top 32 just started, and they were like, all right, Leo versus Onin, go play. No, like there was like a subtotal of like 100 people at the venue at that point, maybe less. Like realistically, no one really shows up for 10 a.m. pool. So people were just like waking up, and they were like, yeah, Leo's and losers, lost to Onin, lost to Steve. It's just like, oh, well. That's weird.
Back during this time, people, including Leo, thought that Byleth did relatively well into Steve for basically the same reasons Sephiroth does well into him.
Oh, how little we knew about Steve. Ugh.
In this first ever meeting, we can see that Leo had some trouble working around Byleth's slow speed against Anin's walls.
Wait, is that true? Shuton had some good early results with Steve. Akola was inspired by him to... You're trolling me. That's definitely a troll. You're saying just nothing. You're just lying.
He used neutral B to break the blocks, but to no avail, eventually losing his second stock to a diamond back air. Though when Leo was able to get in on Anin, he'd do pretty well, like what happened to even up the game in a last stock scenario. But ultimately, Steve's damage output,
it's real?
especially
Nope.
with
Don't believe
diamond,
it.
far outpaced Byleth's, with another fair spike up smash taking game 1. At this point, we see Leo try to slow the game down, even playing off stage. But he played too hard, as a dropped anvil results in an untechable situation, losing Leo game 2. Even when Leo tried to fight back with pressure, Anin was able to footstool anvil out of shield to take the stock, one of the earliest uses on a major stage of a technique that would eventually become second nature for every Steve and their mother.
True. I don't know why every Steve knows how to do footstool out of shield.
In both sets, Leo is facing off against a slow, methodical playstyle that he's struggling to approach.
Campers. Wait, actually, Shuton is not a camper, bro. He runs it down.
And
Bro did not watch the
does,
set.
Speaking of Shuton, Leo's next chance to go against the Japanese Olimar approached extremely quickly after his first encounter with Anin, taking place at the Scuffed World Tour later that same year in fall of 2022. This set, just like the first two they had fought back in 2019, was a 3-0 sweep in Shuton's favor. Leo tried to go both Byleth and Marth into Shuton, utilizing big disjoints that Olimar is supposed to be weak towards, but to no avail. Even though all 3 games did go to last stock.
Dude, Shuton is so good. I have a lot of respect for him.
The next time Leo would get a chance to fight his demons was 2024, and just like with 2022, things have changed a lot in Leo's career since he had last battled either player. First of all, it's important to note that at this point, people were really beginning to notice that Leo had these blind spots.
It's crazy to, I don't know, like now that I know like the time gap between the times that Shuton has played Leo, it feels so like disingenuous, right? So like the first time they played was like definitely real at Prime Saga, right? Played Marth, he thought it would work. He played, I think, Wolf, thought it would work. Lost 3-0, it goes like that. The next time they played, this was the meme tournament where Leo had a little bit of the good stuff and he might have been a little high, he might have been a little under the influence, and he chose Marth, which was a high degree of trolling, and he got 3-0'd rather. So it's hard to like genuinely count that. And then the next time they played, I actually don't know where the third was, but I think it was probably legit. Thing is, now that he's like finds his mains and like, you know, finds his footing as a player, Leo, like it feels like more genuine to start counting the sets, you know?
He's gone Wolf, Marth, Byleth, and even Corrin. But Shuton had never faced off against Leo's Joker. And for that matter, neither had Anin. Would that prove to be the key factor to
Nope,
figuring
he's
out
getting
these
3-0'd
matchups
again.
once and for all?
Nope,
Well,
I know how this
Leo's next
goes.
set against one of these players was actually online, the only Wi-Fi set in his records against either player. It's important to consider that Joker isn't typically seen as a Wi-Fi character.
Love Wi-Fi. We're skipping Wi-Fi. I don't care about Wi-Fi.
This set was the first time that MkLeo was facing off against Shuton with his Joker. This set is notable in the fact that it is, by far, the closest set that these two have had up to this point. And Leo still wasn't able to take a game. Shuton clutched out last hit scenarios and...
No, he's not trash, honestly. It's just Shuton just clutched harder. Bro's the mixed lord.
While Shuton, on the other hand, would defeat Hurt and Snow, only losing a close game 5 to Mia and a 3-0 to Akala to place third as the number 6 seed. Huh, that's the exact same seeding and final placement of Onin at the coin box. Interesting.
No, it's not.
2025 saw MkLeo not get another chance to face off against Shuton, but rather a whopping 3 whole sets against his other bracket demon, Onin, 2 of which took place at Level Up Expo 2025. MkLeo was entering Level Up Expo as the 16th seed.
That's tough. Seed 16, that's tough.
Now, unfortunately, of all the sets that we're covering in today's video, this is the only one that we don't have a VOD for. But snippets of it were captured off of a hand cam stream that has only been preserved through watch parties. Though this set is very notable in that this was the first time that MkLeo took a game off of either of his demons, winning game 2 against Onin. Though sadly, that game was the only one that Leo would take, as Onin would win the set in 3-1 fashion, casting Leo down into the loser's bracket.
Honestly, he had a phase of time where Gluto was his demon. Nobody talks about that, but they really should, because Gluto was also farming Leo super hard. Maybe dropping games here and there, but like, he was farming.
In this set, Leo would start off playing hot, once again taking a game to open up the set, the second ever game taken over either one of his bracket demons. However, Onin would quickly get their act together, winning the next 3 games in a row, with 2 of them being comfortable, multi-stock leads.
Sheesh.
This loss would eliminate MkLeo at 7th
But he took a game.
place as the
He's
seed,
doing it.
But it wouldn't be long before MkLeo would get another shot at Onin. It was at Kulon 16, which took place right after Kagaribi 13's absolute craziness. And it was here that we'd see the final evolution in MkLeo's game plan against Steve.
He's had a few demons over the years for sure. I mean, I think like the big ones are obviously Onin and Shuton. I think Tweak towards like the end of Tweak's little, I don't know, before he retired or whatever. Tweak's definitely been his demon towards the end, and then also Gluto for sure, but Gluto he beat recently. Bro hasn't beaten Tweak in like 4 years. Yeah. Those are the only ones I can really think of.
4 was spent narrowing down
Proto?
his
No, I don't think
lineup.
so.
He
I don't
decided
know.
to bring out an old face to tackle his new, ever-growing Steve problem. Leo would bring out the Aegis.
If DLC Pack 1 don't work, we go to DLC Pack 2. It's a simple mathematical equation.
Aegis's frame trapping and juggling, combined with her high mobility, allows her to keep Steve in disadvantage for longer. Not to mention, the longer range of Aegis allows you to more easily challenge minecarts, and Steve's own aerials with superior range. We can see this game plan demonstrated well in Game 1, where Leo's main goal is to stay underneath Onin when possible and keep them in disadvantage. And Leo plays Pyra almost like Cloud, utilizing a frame trap scenario of falling up air into up tilt to checkmate Onin. And Leo carries that game plan well into a Game 1 victory. Sadly, if Leo wanted to defeat Onin with Aegis, he'd need one thing: Alish. His game plan and character choice were solid, as was his advantage state, but the fragility of Aegis as a character was just being exploited too often. As for Kulon 16, Leo would go on to win only one more set against Kananabe before losing to Rocky's Kazuya and Steve to place 13th as the 8th seed.
Bro plays Kazuya and Steve. What an absolute gamer. Holy. We need more of that. We need more Steve Kazuya players in this world.
It's important to note that, at this point, much like Shuton before, Onin's impressive set record over MkLeo was starting to turn heads, and people were realizing that they were a big roadblock in any bracket Leo attended. In fact, with the double victories at Level Up Expo, Onin now had more wins over Leo than Shuton did.
There are now farming contests in the background. That is awesome. I think Tweak has this beat though, I'm gonna be completely honest.
But, of course, this is the Smash community. When Shuton does it, it's a player versus player thing, and Shuton has downloaded Ultimate's GOAT. But when Anin does it, and even does it more than Shuton, does Anin as a player get any credit whatsoever? Of course not. At best, it ends in toxicity. At worst, Steve hate is used as a thin veil for bigotry.
Bro, what's up, Pink? I mean, okay. So what RisterMice just said was like people are basically discrediting Onin, right? They're saying like when Shuton plays Leo, it's a player diff, but when Onin plays Leo, it's a character diff. Now, all I'm gonna say is that Shuton is literally the only Olimar beating, and I've seen Leo lose to about 5 or 6 different Steve players in the last 2 to 3 years. So I'm gonna say, do with that information what you will. I'm not taking a side. I'm just presenting you the facts as they are relevant. You know, I'm not gonna discredit Onin. It's hard to beat Leo. That is undeniable. But I am stating the facts here. It's okay to be boosted is the message I'm trying to send. It's okay to be boosted by your character. Do not take shame in that. And don't use it as an insult because it's not insulting.
With intense scrapping bringing both combatants to over 100%.
Oh, this is the time he finally beats him. I think he 3-0s him too.
To take first blood and even racking up a decent amount of extra credit before losing his own first stock. In this second stock, we'd really start to see the key difference that was the turning point for Leo. His ledge game. Shuton was kept off stage for long periods of...
It's worth being noted, so he said ledge game was the big difference here. Olimar is dog ledge. He's got some mixy options, sure, but like just loses to hitboxes most of the time. Well, that is Olimar's biggest weakness is getting off of ledge.
It looked as though we might be headed into a long last stock scenario until Leo found fair 1 into up smash out of nowhere to take game 1. Running it back to PS2, Leo would once again utilize Rebel's Guard to take advantage of Pikmin that Shuton would stick onto him. But it was Shuton who would find an amazing early game lead by an entire stock. But at only 55%, Leo found a dare to get Shuton onto the platform before proceeding to do up throw up air like he's playing Inkling.
Like he's playing Inkling? What the? I don't associate up throw up air with Inkling. What the hell?
Shuton, despite having some percent on him by this point, was able to even up the stock count. And for a moment, it looked as if Shuton would take the game, getting Leo deep off stage with a purple Pikmin forward air. But a skillful recovery allowed Leo to get back on
skillful recovery, bro, got lucky, hello? Look at this dog timing from Shuton. Nice down here, dumbass.
But a skillful recovery allowed Leo to get back on the stage and reverse his fortunes, catching Shuton with Egeon in order to take game 2.
One may say you were thinking logically. That's something I am known for doing.
Which he converted into down tilt. Seems like a missed opportunity until he's put into the exact same scenario moments later. And this time, Leo picks up smash, taking the game and the set in 3-0 fashion over one of his biggest demons.
Find a freaking lead, dude.
It's important to remember that their last set at Delta 8, while being a 3-0, was still very close. It's just that this time, Leo was the one closing out the last stock scenarios and making the comebacks, not Shuton. But that begs the question...
It's almost like game counts don't tell the whole story. Just like how Shuton, you know, clutched out 3 games to 3-0 him. Leo clutched out 3 games to 3-0 him. But you could, like, you know, those were, it was 3-0, but it was close, you know?
If you ask me, I think the biggest difference in this set versus his others is his confidence. And not strictly metaphorical confidence either. His fair 1 drag downs, his Rebel's Guards, his off-stage game that we saw in game 1. Leo was more willing to go for big options. And critically,
I think Leo kind of took more steps to actually mastering Joker, like once he picked him back up, like in the last like year or two. Because like back then when he used to play Joker, it was all fundies, you know, just using the good moves in the situations they were supposed to be used in. Doing that at the time meant you were a high level player, which is an insanely low bar. But that's how things were back in the day, you know, that's just how that's how games start out. But such simplicity does not make you a high level player anymore. You need to actually master your character and solve those like niche equations, I guess, or problems that are presented in matchups. He started, you know, actually mastering Joker and using footstool out of shield gun. He used more Rebel's Guard in situations where it made more sense that he wouldn't get hard punished if he missed them. He was using up air drag down loops, which he really wasn't doing that much, like, you know, back then when he was like definitively number 1. He got better at Joker, and there is no denying that. I don't think confidence is the correct answer. I think that Leo just got better, and it's hard to think that, like, you know, when you're a number 1 player in the world, you can still improve. That is something that does happen all the time, but no one ever considers it. Mind you, he wasn't number one when he started improving his Joker, but you get what I mean. Like, high and top level players can still improve at the game.
There's only one more set left to talk about in this video, and only one more bracket roadblock it could be against. Fast forward to the end of July, the 26th.
Dude, talk about the tweak rivalry.
MkLeo's home turf. Game 1, much like the Shuton said earlier, started with both players scrapping fiercely, until Leo found a good downer spike, connecting it into an up B in order to take the first blood. Though the game
just a counter-picking scumbag.
But Leo was
Leo's
playing
not the GOAT.
hot this set, and found an early low percent combo with Mithra that turned into a pyro juggle situation. And whether it be a DI issue or an issue of PS2's low ceiling, Leo managed to get the kill at only 70% with Pyra's powerful up air.
Ouch.
Though the stock count was evened up due to an anvil catching Leo at the wrong place, wrong time. At
Dying
around
like an absolute
100%,
shithead.
Leo finds a dash attack to send Anin deep off stage, chasing with a fair that beats out Minecart to take game 1 for Leo. Game 3 saw Leo correctly avoid one of the
Terrifying.
options that had formerly sealed his fate, anvil out of shield,
Spacing.
being able to properly dodge it. And through doing so, set up a down tilt up air kill confirm to take the
Holy
first stock
smooth
of the
down
game.
tilt.
We even see Leo attempt his own footstool out of shield shenanigans, though ultimately it's the classic down air up smash that takes the second stock instead. We can even see Leo, while he's on Mithra, avoid overextending with unsafe options, instead waiting for Anin to either approach him or start camping, so that Leo can head back in. When they decide to try and camp, Leo rushes back in and puts Anin in a pyro juggle situation, which ultimately ends with dash attack sealing the game.
Bro's just not respecting dash
Much
attack.
like now, it's game 4, last stock, and MkLeo has the entire crowd behind him. Everyone watching, in the venue and at home, wants to see history be made. And there's nothing MkLeo is better at than making history.
Make it down there, make it the up smash, whatever it is, but whatever hits
Dude,
is gonna seal the
he just
deal
is so
and
lame.
make it a
Stop
surprise
getting
offer.
down tilt up air.
And that's it. That's it. He does it.
The GOAT does it! The GOAT does it!
Holy relax, damn. It's not that serious.
And so, MkLeo, within the span of a single month, finally defeated both of his bracket demons,
Champion.
Shuton and Anin. So now, only 2 questions remain. How will his sets with these players go from now on, and who's next? Who else has Leo not beaten yet? Let's begin with the first matter.
If he says that it's definitely going to be a Leo win, no, this going game 5 next time. I'd put money on it.
If I had to guess, even though Leo could theoretically go some different characters, with Rob in particular having a great matchup into Olimar, I think Leo Shuton sets will be Joker Olimar for the rest of this game's life. And I foresee the two of them going back and forth, just depending on who's playing better that day, and who can therefore close out last hits and make good comebacks. As for Anin, the swap to Aegis was the difference maker in turning their sets together into close races. But I actually think there is potential to see a different character here. MkLeo adapted wonderfully in not overextending, recovering smartly, and keeping Steve in disadvantage. But if this meta keeps developing, I imagine Aegis will struggle more and more as time goes on, much like how the Aegis Sonic matchup.
I think Onin makes a lot of simple mistakes that if they just fixed, we might have a new best Steve in the world. But hey, just stop getting hit by simple things like down tilt up air and dash attack raw.
Is there anyone else Leo has never beaten? Well, yes, of course there is. Everyone has a player they've never beaten, because nearly every player has a matchup they've only ever played once, only to never see that player again. Leo's no different. There are a lot of matchups where Leo's lost their only encounter, but given another chance, he could easily win today.
I think Toriguri would f him up in the run back.
That being said, there are only 5 players in the world who have played Leo more than once who have never lost to him. Those players are Kameme, Yez,
Kameme played him twice. Kameme beat him with Mega Man and Sora. Kameme's kind of a G for that, I'm not gonna lie.
Semi,
Super Semi's also played him twice and beat him twice. Wait a second. Leo beat Toriguri though? Wait, is this real? I think you're making up stats.
Neo, and Sora.
There's also, maybe he beat him. Yemen Action. I don't know if Leo got a run back against him.
The player who, I believe, has the best chances to become Leo's next big bracket demon. Syrup's career has been on an exponential rise, and he was actually the one who sent Leo to losers at S Factor 12, where he'd eventually go on to beat
Steve is quite good.
To me, that says that Leo might have more trouble beating Syrup's Steve with his Aegis. This is actually where my ideas about Rob might come into play.
Stop trying to convince Leo to play Rob. They should just go Zurusu, because I beat both of those players. I just beat them both with Zurusu. It's very easy. All you have to do is outplay them for like 5 minutes a game. Like, I could see, actually, I agree. I think Syrup could be another demon for Leo to have to deal with. Who's to say? They'll have to go to more tournaments together. But that is, we don't get so graced. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one. Bye.